It's the Jim Fannin Show. We've come to take your mind.
Am I still on? Michael Butler is my guest. We'll be talking saving women from human trafficking, publishing. He's a speaker and an author. Buckle up and welcome aboard. Here's where you find my friend on Michael. I forgot to hit pause. I'm the producer, and we went into the next song, which is a great song. Want Some from M Factor. Thank you to Jay Beatty for the intro music. Genius. Niagara Music's own Jay Beatty. And MichaelDButler.com is this one. Beyond Publishing. And all the links are in the show description. Sign up for the newsletter. There you go. Beyond Publishing. .net. Here's where you sign up for the program and Beyond Publishing. 1040impact.org. And there's a couple of clips here. The clips are in the show description as well. And here he is on Twitter at Michael Butler Sr. Again, it's in the title. Wherever you're watching it, you'll know how to get a hold of him. And here's 1040impact.org on Twitter. Michael, how the heck are you? I know you're busy. We've been trying to plan this for a little while. I appreciate your patience with me as I canceled
Great to be with you, Jim. Great to be with you.
Yeah.
We've been friends for a while.
Yeah, I canceled last week with a migraine. I was in the sack. It blew over, and I'm feeling better now. And there's your face. So now you're actually on camera now. Michael, I know we're pressed for time. You got to be out of here by the top of the hour, and I'm good at keeping my people on time normally. So let's just dive into. I'm more interested in who you are as a man, how you're what your upbringing was, and how. And we'll quickly take as long as you want. Tell us all about your lineage, your history. How you were brought up, what you were taught, and then we'll talk present day issues.
Well, I think as men, we're always evolving, right? Here we are in 2024. I've got 4 grown sons, 34, 32, 30, and 28. One of them has a birthday that throws me off. So that's what I'm sticking with. I think that's where they're at today. And, time flies. But I think growing up on the farm in Oklahoma, you learn some things. I learned some work ethic from my parents. It's just me and my brother and my dog, my German Shepherd, Joe. And there weren't a lot of kids around. Within a 9 miles, we had a 4-mile square where we lived, where there were 2 other boys that we'd play baseball with and spend the summer with. But for the most part, it was working in the garden. We needed to get the chores done in the garden before we could go play baseball or go swimming with friends. And that was the thing. You had to be home for dinner at dark. You didn't have cell phones. And during school time, I was just a nerd kid from Oklahoma with my library card maxed out. I would steal my brother's library card so I could max out his library card. And it was a school librarian when I was 11 gave me a book by an 11-year-old kid that really changed my life. Jim, you might say, what's the name of that book? I don't know. I don't remember. You're a speaker. I'm a speaker. We get told all the time that our talks change people's lives. But when it comes right down to it, people don't remember what we said to them, but it's how we made them feel. And that's what this book was when I was 11 years old. I read this book, and the thought I got from this book as I'm reading it in my pasture, there's cows around, a couple horses around. Um, this book taught me to dream. This book taught me that you can really do anything if you just imagine it and believe it. And this kid, it was amazing to me that he wrote a book. Maybe he had the help of his parents. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. It didn't say in the book. I don't even remember his name. I just remember on the cover of the book was a sailboat, was a yacht. It was somewhere between a yacht and a sailboat. The difference between a yacht and a sailboat is the price tag, right? So, but I do know this book taught me to dream. And I eventually overcame the stuttering that I had back then. And growing up on the farm, planting vegetables, growing vegetables, my brother and I were saving money. We bought a cow. We turned that into a couple cows. We turned that into a couple more cows. My parents taught us entrepreneurship. They taught us how to save money. My brother and I bought a motorcycle together. And it was really fascinating to me about that garden. And I teach a course right now called Write Your Book in an Hour, where I talk about most people want to write a book, Jim, but they never do. And the reason they never do is they get stuck in the horse manure, in the horse BS of life, where they're stuck into their trauma and their pain of what happened in the past, and they never get the result. I'll never forget. It was a Friday night, and I was about 8 years old, and my dad said, "Okay, boys, tomorrow you're not going to play with friends. Tomorrow we're going to go shovel horse manure." Well, that sounds exciting, right? We're going to go shovel horse manure. In his 1963 Chevy pickup, we made not one, but about 4 or 5 trips to the neighbor's horse barn, and we're shoveling horse manure in the heat of the Saturday afternoon. And you get a little wind blowing, and you got your brother throwing horse manure on you. It gets pretty nasty. It gets pretty nasty. It gets pretty itchy. But I didn't realize the value of organic fruits and vegetables at the farmer's market. Everybody wants that. They want the end result. You know, somebody wants to hold up a book and say, "Hey, I wrote my book. I've got my book. Here it is." And they're ready to show their book to the world. But you don't realize the process of the pain and the transformation it took to get that book on a piece of paper. You know, and some people never get published because they can never get past their pain, and they are staying stuck in the horse manure, and nothing ever good comes out of their pain. They never transform it because they stay stuck in the past.
Interesting. So what was it about? How does this cross over into, saving women in third world countries? Like, how they seem diametrically opposed. I don't mean to belittle either one of them, but they're just so drastically different. And I hate to just switch gears, but that is so important what you're doing. And like we talked about off air, I managed to click the record button. Just it'll be in the long version when I put it up on Twitter.
That's always helpful. That's great.
Yeah, but I'm fascinated. Like, there's things we do for money. I do real estate for money. I'm pretty good at it. I've been doing it a long time, and I feel comfortable there, but it's not like my purpose, And I shared with you, I took a teaching job down here. Wow. Did I feel like the kids just lit me up. And finally, I'm like, okay, God, I see what you brought me to the Dominican Republic, because it kind of wasn't, my free will brought me here, but like it had nothing to do with me almost. It was way outside of me. And it was never my plan. So when I got here, I'm like, okay, well, just put whoever you want on my path and lead me where you want to go, because I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm flailing around trying to. So, tell me about your purpose and how it led you to what you're doing in foreign countries with girls, mostly. I imagine. Again, I don't know much about it, but.
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about that. I think when you look at the greatest storyteller that ever lived, right? You read the Bible and you see that God put Adam and Eve in a garden, and he said, go enjoy it. Go name everything. Every place you walk is yours. I put you in there. I want you to enjoy it. And that was the thing. And I don't think there's any wrong answer when it comes to doing God's will and God's work. You're in Dominican Republic, and you're trying to figure out the big picture, but every day you're changing somebody's life in a big way or in a small way. And that's really what it's about. It's really about saying, where can I be the most effective today? How can I change somebody's life today? I'm on your podcast. I'm speaking right after this on another podcast. But at the end of the day, you have a bad day, you get up tired, or you're not feeling well, you had a migraine last week. You just keep moving forward and doing what you know to do that day. And so with us, it was really a call that I received. In 2013, there was a Joseph Colony fire in Pakistan where radical jihadists said a Christian had desecrated a Quran. And so they burned an entire Christian village in Pakistan, and 212 people died in the attack, the arson attack, and 55 children were left orphaned. And so I started getting these calls every day on Facebook Messenger from somebody in Pakistan that I didn't know and I had never met. And you know how it is when people reach out to you and you're like, okay, is this real? Is it legit? So I flew over there. I wanted to check it out. So I met with them. I Googled the news. First of all, I realized it was real. I flew over there. And we began helping feed these 55 kids in an orphanage situation. And that has just kind of grown and multiplied where, Pakistan's 99% Muslim. If you're Christian, you're persecuted. You don't get the opportunity to go to college or get a government job. And so they refurbished a 3-bedroom or a 3-story house in the corner of this village, of this district, and painted it and cleaned it up. And this is where we began staffing and caring for these kids and feeding these kids. And some of the older girls that were 17 and 18 years old that were left orphaned ended up becoming the teachers and the educators, teaching the younger 5, 6, 7-year-old kids. And that's been 7 years ago. And so it's grown from there. And we get calls almost weekly saying, hey, there's 8 girls in a brothel. Can you rescue them? Do you have room for them? And if we have the resources and the room for them, then we'll rescue them. And that's grown to 416 kids in 4 safe houses. So we're daily caring for 416, primarily girls, you asked. We rescue a few family members and sisters that have a little brother. And so we do have some brothers in the family, and we like to keep families together. We've rescued a few parents that are part of that rescue. So there's 416 primarily girls ages 6 to 17 that we've rescued in the last 6-7 years. And we have a full-time staff of 25 that are daily caring for those 416 kids in 4 different safe houses. And I made 3 trips over there with my board members, taking my board members over there. We started a nonprofit at that time. I was not new to nonprofits. I had been in the nonprofit space. I had been a pastor and been in ministry for a lot of years. But at the time I got the call from Pakistan, I had left ministry and was working in business, had started the publishing company. And so I wasn't really thinking about missions. I wasn't thinking about safe houses. I wasn't thinking about rescuing from human trafficking. It just kind of knocked on our door. And now we have a board that's fully engaged over there. I was at a nonprofit symposium yesterday in Dallas. We're doing things. I just ran a sponsorship run, 38 miles in Israel, Jerusalem, last month to raise awareness for the hostages in Israel, but also for our safe house kids. And so there were 3 journalists in Israel help supporting me on that run. And so we're writing some incredible stories now. We have 4 books called Powerful Female Immigrants. This features 95 women from around the globe, from 70 different nations. This is volume 4. And at powerfulfemaleimmigrants.com, it tells the story of women who came to the U.S. as immigrants. It's always been amazing to me, women that come here as immigrants that don't have anything, they don't know anybody, they don't have any money, and they come to the U.S. and a few years later, they're wealthy, they're worth millions of dollars, they've started a couple companies, they're hiring people, they're running nonprofits. And so we have 95 women featured in these 4 volumes, and we have our first volume of The Immigrant Men, and these are men that are equally doing amazing things, that are coming here against all odds to create their own story, to change their trajectory. For example, Patrick Bet-David, we feature him here. He sold his company. He's originally from Iran. He sold his insurance company for $300 million 2 years ago. He's now part owner of the New York Yankees, and he's an outspoken advocate for freedom and liberty, and he's featured in The Immigrant Men. So we've got some amazing stories like that. We feature Naomi Park. She's from North Korea. She fled North Korea, her and her mother. She almost starved to death. Her story is pretty amazing. She's given several TED Talks about escaping North Korea and her life being threatened and in danger, and talks about the plight of people living in North Korea that don't have freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion. And I think in our Western countries like the US and Canada, Jim, we take it for granted. We take freedom for granted. And the reason I bring up these books is 100% of the proceeds of these books go to fund our nonprofit at 1040impact.org. And so you asked how I got involved in ending human trafficking in Pakistan. It was really just getting a call on the phone. And it wasn't like I had a vision or a dream, or it wasn't like I had a booming voice from heaven saying that I should do it, but it just seemed like the right thing to do. And as I moved forward with saying, what can we do to help? We helped a little bit. And it seems like every time we did a little more, our business grew and was blessed a little more. And every time I would go over there, and every time we would rescue more girls, and immediately I'm on the hook and personally responsible for feeding these kids. And so there's a little stress there, but I would just always give it to God. And it would be toward the end of the month where we have to send the funds so they can feed the kids and pay the bills. And I'm like, okay, I'm not worried about it. And the end of the month would come around, and somehow the funds would come in just month after month after year, Jim. And it's been like that ever since the beginning.
I chuckle when you say I'm not worried about it, because we say we're not worried about the things that worry us. We say we're going to give to God what worries us. And, I don't mean to get into the weeds here, but what's it look like logistically, like financially, and setting up safe houses in another country? Say I'm a guy with a lot of money and I got a good heart. Other than hiring a guy like you that's done it before, can you give us some tips and some of the steps that you had to go through to get to be legit, if there is such a thing in Pakistan? I don't know, but what's that look like?
The Taliban is one of the political parties over there, and their former prime minister is in prison now, along with his wife. So that gives you a little idea about. In fact, I was going to go back in October, but I'm going to wait till after the election because it's just not safe to go. Last time I was there, it wasn't safe. The Taliban was shutting down roads and burning churches. And on top of that, I didn't mention our team on the ground has started 221 churches. So if you're really going to make a difference in a country like Pakistan, it has to be a spiritual solution. It can't just be throwing money at a problem, because it's not going to change if it doesn't change people's hearts and their minds. It's not going to change anything about the nation. So logistically, what it looks like is we are a nonprofit, a 501c3 based out of Texas, and we accept donations from individual givers, corporate sponsors, and churches who write us checks. And so if anybody wants to donate and give, it's 1040impact.org. If you want to see our current projects, you can go to GiveButter, givebutter.com/1040. and see what our current project is. It's actually called Beat the Heat. We're putting in 2 air conditioners in 2 of our biggest safe houses because it's 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And you can help me on the Celsius there. It's off the charts, very hot. What is that, like 36 degrees Celsius?
I don't know. I'm all American dollar and I'm all Fahrenheit when I stepped off the plane.
It's super hot. So we're doing a campaign this month called Beat the Heat. A lot of those funds have come in. We're still close to our goal of $2,400 US to put into those 2 air conditioners and refrigerators into 2 of our biggest safe houses. We own all of our safe houses. We're about to have our 4th and final safe house paid off. So these are deeded piece of properties that we own. We're in the process of getting recognized by the government of Pakistan as official safe houses, so that we're not going to be hassled or given problems by the Taliban. We're going to be recognized. It doesn't mean we were going to receive any funds from the United Nations or from Pakistan, because they give to Muslim nonprofits first before they would give to a Christian-based nonprofit. But it's just really legit. We're working with the University of Stanford in California to get recognized by Pakistan's government as being an official safe house. So that will help us get more large donors and big checks from big philanthropic organizations that like to write big checks, because we're working with a lady who's got her PhD from Pakistan, and she's worked with the government of Pakistan for a lot of years, and now she's working in conjunction with Stanford University to help us to get recognized.
I don't mean to get immediately political with you, but it is kind of my nature. Give me your thoughts on the state of the globe right now. I mean, my heart breaks for America, my own country, Canada. I don't recognize it. I don't understand what we're doing to children in our own country, where, you know, freedom of speech is the bedrock, at least of the American society. We got Trudeau censoring, putting you in jail for thought crimes. I mean, and now you're a well-seasoned businessman and world traveler. You know, this idea that we're oppressing our women somehow, or we need to pay reparations for something for an 80-year period of history that, I mean, slavery's been, it's still slavery's is more invasive of the human spirit on the globe now than it was when the Americans had it. Anyway, I just appreciate your thoughts on, you know, we think we've got it so bad. I'm in the Dominican Republic, and I just can't believe, if there's one lesson I've learned down here, it's that people still love each other in this culture. You see strangers with their arms around each other on the corner, busting balls. They're moto drivers. You know, they're you know, they're not poor, but they have to learn how to survive on a lot less than we ever thought we'd have to, with myself included, even down here. But, you know, so I just appreciate your big picture. You know, the pendulum seems to be swinging radically left, and we're doing some absurd things to justify it, including burning churches down to the ground, especially in my country. There's been 40 or 50 Christian churches burned in the last few years. And I don't know, just give me your high-level, low-resolution kind of look at the world today, if you don't mind.
Well, you mentioned the word pendulum, and things do swing back and forth, right? They go from one extreme to the next, and capitalism and prosperity seems to grow and flourish where there's more personal liberty, you know. And you had mentioned slavery. You know, I was looking at some of Elon Musk tweets. I like to follow him on Twitter. I got on Twitter early, and that was my news. That's how I followed people. I followed very few people, but I really liked that he was making the point that sometimes the mainstream media tries to demonize the West, but in fact, other countries that still have legal slavery, I mean, it's still happening. What about the J6 protesters that are still locked up in a DC gulag that haven't even been tried yet? And it's been almost 4 years. And so what about, you mentioned your prime minister from Canada, freezing the assets of the truckers during the trucker protests, the trucker strikes. And so freedom is something that's God-given in all of us. I think when you watch a movie like Braveheart, that just ignites that constitutionalist on the inside of me that says, you know, if you look at the early founders of America, a lot of them ended up giving their lives or serving jail sentences for signing the Declaration of Independence. It wasn't just like some constituents in DC cursing at them or throwing tomatoes at them. They literally got locked up. They literally got beheaded. And so I think you have to realize that all freedom comes from God, and that freedom in business is a good thing. Too many government regulations is a bad thing. Look at the state of California. Look at the country of Venezuela. You know, look at the country of El Salvador that's coming back to life after just a few years of their president going after the cartels and locking them up. Look at Argentina, is flourishing in the first term of Javier Milei, who is the Trump of South America, because he literally nixed all the government BS agencies that were just sucking the money from the people. I mean, the guy's out there campaigning with his chainsaw, right? And he says, this is what I'm going to do with taxes and with government fluff. I'm going to get rid of it. That's what he did. The World Economic Forum, a lot of people thought COVID was going to be the end of freedom. And we really thought, that the WEF was going to bring back the Antichrist. And it looked to a lot of sane thinking people that was the case. But I think they really overplayed their hand, just like you leaving Canada. I traveled a lot internationally during the pandemic. I flew a lot. And I saw what they were doing, what they were trying to do, and people are still living under the cloud and the oppression of that. We haven't fully come back economically from that. So I just think when we recognize people's right to be free, their liberty, we rescued 54 girls from Afghanistan after the U.S. and Canada pulled out of Afghanistan so terribly. Parents were so desperate, they were selling their daughters. And we were able to rescue 54 girls and bring them to our safe houses and give them a new life, a new identity, and prepare them for life. Because not only are we feeding them and educating them, but we're teaching them skills that they can do to be employed for life and not have to go back into trafficking. So to answer your question, some people say I'm not political, and I say it's not about politics, it's about freedom. It's about life and death is really what it's about. And if you don't stand up for what you've been given, and if you don't protect yourself, I'll never forget, Dad taught my brother and I how to fight. And, some parents haven't taught their children how to defend themselves, and they don't know how to defend themselves or that they even should defend themselves. And it's not that you're out there looking for a fight, but you know how to protect yourself when you're threatened. And as a nation, we've been bullied. China balloons have flown over. Now we've got the Russian Navy is over here in Cuba, just a few miles off the coast of Florida, threatening us. And the mainstream news media is silent on it. They're not even talking about it. Most Americans don't know that the Russian Navy is parked off the coast of Cuba. They don't know that.
You know how I was made aware of it? A client that I've been talking to down here in the DR. I mentioned, obviously, I'm selling real estate, did it for 30 years back in Canada. He's a guy that I click with. I can't wait to have a beer with him. And he called me. He said, Jimmy, I got to get out of here. I'm coming to the DR. I'll let you know as soon as I book my flight, but I got to leave this country. He's in the States. Can't remember what state he's in. Doesn't matter. It's the same everywhere, it seems like. This immigration thing, man, we're going to pay for that. I say we because I've got friends and family in all over the States. And you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg now. I can't believe what's happened. But anyway, he said, I got to get out. I got to get out. And he was the guy that said, the warships are coming and there'll be a nuclear sub there soon, and call it flex or whatever. I know it's an exercise. And then Trudeau sends a frigate down for a ceremony to celebrate our relationship with Cuba. Of course, he's rumored to be Fidel Castro's illegitimate son.
Yeah,
of course.
exactly.
But that's how I found out about it, and I am every day more surprised why more people just don't leave Canada. But I recognize I was very fortunate. I was in a position that I could pick up and go. I don't have any children yet, and it was not easy, but I didn't have some of the ties that were keeping some of the people there. But it almost seems like they put us through kind of like a test run, because at Canada, they closed the borders. Then they said you couldn't travel if you're unvaccinated. That's when I got out before that happened. Couldn't take a plane, train, or automobile. Well, a private automobile, but not a federally regulated automobile like a bus. You couldn't be on a bus if you weren't vaccinated. So I got out quickly, but yeah, I'm surprised that more people haven't just jumped ship. But the practice run, he set up these hotels so that when you got off your flight, they put you in a hotel that was triple the price a normal hotel in Toronto would be, run by the government, to quarantine you. And most people didn't know. All you had to say is, I'm not going to your friggin' hotel. Well, we're going to write you a ticket. Well, write me a ticket. I'm not going anywhere with you. I'm going home. Yeah. No, you can't. You got to stay in one of our... Like, did this really happen? It almost seemed like a test run. And what broke my heart is, I saw it coming. I'm not even that bright. I saw that the old and fat were dying and the kids were good. We saw that. We saw the data. And the data was positive tests. And we know the PCR tests. Those weren't medical cases. You know, and even the world meter that I used to follow. But I mean, so I just decided I never get sick. I've never had a flu shot. I'm not taking the new shot. I'm out.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised
Yeah.
that more people won't get out. But it's almost like they put us through a little test run to see how much they could get away with for the next time. I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, a buddy of mine said, you got to read this conspiracy on hemp. It's called The Emperor Wears No Clothes, and it was Jack Herer. He's died a few years ago. He was the hemperor, they called him. And, you know, get away from the marijuana aspect. He wanted the legalization of marijuana, but industrial hemp is, but like 1930s Popular Mechanics cover was 25,000 commercial use. It's got to be double that now. You can burn the oil. It's like, it's amazing food. It healed my sciatic. On the first jug, I've been selling this stuff for 25 years. I finally got a jug from Amazon. It cost me $120 shipped here, $60 and $60 shipping. And within a month, my sciatic, Michael, in 4 years, I'm free, completely pain-free. It's gone just by eating essential fatty acids. So, anyways, I'm blabbering. It's your show.
And would you get locked up in Canada? I mean, do you have the equivalent of the FDA up there saying you can't do that? You can't talk about that. We can't sell you this. You can't buy this.
Oh no, marijuana is legal, and you can get, and hemp oils. It's more regulated. Oh no, CBD is regulated in the States. I don't think it is. But no, it's not that bad. But it's a lot worse in a bunch of other ways. Like my brother's fighting cancer right now. All the doctors want to do is operate and give you chemotherapy or radiation. That's what they make their money on. They don't know anything about this experimental tests that are really yielding really good results with this dog dewormer that's really popular. Ivermectin's been effective for some types of cancer. There's all kinds of stuff that has worked that they've buried because they don't know anything. Well, they're paid by the pharmaceuticals. So they don't want to know anything. But you'd think an MD or a GP, a general practitioner, would be on a freaking mailing list if he was a cancer doctor about the new inventions, like the new treatments for cancer. No, they have no idea. My brother's had to do all his own research, and they never told him that when he took all this radiation in his colon, he'd leave him, but there's a good chance it'd leave him with proctitis. If he had known that, do you think he would have signed up for the radiation? No. It's just unbelievable that the sick care system is designed to keep you sick, and that's what broke my heart about COVID. We saw it coming.
Well, there were a lot of medical doctors on the steps of the Capitol in the spring of 2020 that were talking about ivermectin, that were talking about alternate therapies, right? And they were shut down. I mean, they were canceled. They were shut down. They were taken off Twitter, taken off social media. They weren't allowed to do any more media interviews. It had to be Dr. Fauci and whoever he handpicked. That's the only people you can have on, because they wanted to control the narrative. As a book publisher, I realized early on, we had an author wanted to write a book on COVID-19 and the pandemic. You cannot publish a book with the word COVID-19 or pandemic in it. They would not allow it for like 6 months because they wanted to get out ahead of the narrative. They didn't want anybody having a free thought on that or even questioning Dr. Fauci or the establishment. Can you believe it?
Okay, leave me inspired. We got 20 minutes left till I got to let you go. Inspire me to get back on this wagon. For me, it's the sitting down part. Like I've got the skeleton, okay, and you know, for the book I'm writing, it's called The Commission Coach, How to Sell Your House for More Money Using Commission. It's a simple thing that agents don't talk about. And now the states is going through this whole antitrust thing. I can't believe these big brokers are just paying out these huge judgments because they have a monopoly on a negotiable commission. How is that a freaking monopoly? We have guys that'll sell your house for $1 or for compensation of discount brokers of 1% or $6.95. They all go bankrupt. But I can't believe what's going on. So I've got this thing. And I was going to give it away in videos, and I was just going to coach agents, the commission coach, how to get all your listings at more money. And then so what I did is I made 20 video topics with 5 points underneath so I could hit 20 free videos that would, because you're still going to need my coaching in the field. Just because you watch videos on it doesn't answer all the questions that, well, what happens if they say this? You know, they're going to need the coaching. And then one day I put it in columns by mistake. And I'm like, oh shit, it's a book. And no, it's not just for agents. It's for anybody that's selling a house. If you offer a higher commission and you get it, you got to pay it. If you don't get it, then you can negotiate later when you have leverage. It's easy. So I'm coming along organically here in my own speed, and I got a check coming up at the end of July, because money's been a problem. I've been surviving, but, I'm not throwing money around like, so anyway, inspire me. What do I need to do? What's anyone need to do? How easy is this? I get I love the hook. How to write a book in an hour. Man, I don't know how many hours I've sat at the computer frustrated because you know what I want? Here's my fantasy. And I found somebody, an American down here, that told me she'd do it for $5,000 American. She'll do a 3-hour interview on the topic of the book. I give her a table of I give her my table of contents, the little bit that I've got written down about the book, and between that and that, she can put my personality into a book and ghostwrite it for me. I'm like, oh, and then a buddy says to me, Jimmy, put it into AI. Inspiring me about how easy this is to get started and get it out. I want it done by the end of the year. It's half over now.
Yeah, we're running out of time. Well, the number one reason people write a book is for credibility. For a coach, a consultant, a realtor, a pastor, we're all in sales. You're trying to get people in heaven and out of hell. You're trying to get people to list their house with you. You're trying to get people to hire you as a financial advisor, or in my case, you're trying to get people to hire you to publish a book or ghostwrite a book. So at the end of the day, it comes down to he who has the best knowledge that's Googleable, able to be found on Google, is going to win. So, the future belongs to those who get there first. I'll give you an example. In 1907, Oklahoma, the state I was born and raised, I raised my kids in, it was opened up through a couple of land runs. So the famous term boomer sooner were the people that snuck in the night before, past the 6 a.m. When the shot was going to be fired. They went in and they found the best land first, and they homesteaded on that. And they squatted on the land, and that's where they build their homestead. So they picked the best land. So the early days of the internet were like that. If you want to be found for weight loss, or if you want to be found for financial advice, or if you want to be found for marriage advice or dating advice, whatever the keywords you wanted to be found for, because the internet was like the wild, wild west. And so that's the way it is with books. So I wrote my first book idea to bestseller in 30 days about 10 years ago. And I combine all the aspects, the frequently asked questions I get from people on how to write a book. What do you put on the back cover? How do you do the table of contents? My most popular chapter is how to write a chapter in 20 minutes. And it's all right here in Book Idea to Bestseller, which is available everywhere. But I wanted to put it into a course, because my course is called, which during the pandemic, I taught hundreds of people how to write their book in 60 days. But it really came down to this point, Jim, was really at the end of the day, you can write a book in 1 hour, because it's a matter of making a decision. Like when I ran my first marathon, I'll never forget, I had ran across my bucket list items in a notebook like this when I was 39 and a half. And I had written down the things, my goals for myself that I had written down when I was like 20. And here I am 20 years later, 39 and a half. And one of the things I was going to do by the time I was 40 was to run a marathon. Well, that day I said, here it is. It was like now, it's like June, and I'm like, we're 6 months into the year. I'm going to run a marathon by the end of the year. And I Google it, and I'm living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm realizing the Route 66 marathon is November 18th, 2008. And I did two things that day. One is I went to social media and I said, 6 months from now, I'm going to run a 26-mile marathon, and I'm going to finish, and I'm going to make it happen. And so I posted it to my social media. I put on my running shoes. Now, granted, I'm a couch potato. I had not been doing any exercises, going to the gym. And I figured I could go out and run a couple miles. I go out and I run a block, and I'm out of breath. I feel like I'm going to die. And I'm thinking, I'm just having a bad day. I'll try it tomorrow. Next day, put on my tennis shoes. I go a block and 2 mailboxes I want to call 911. So I go home that day and I Google running shoes, and I see an ad for a running group. And I joined the running group. So I did two things. I got public with my commitment. That's what the preacher says do, right? If you're going to raise your hand, you got to come forward, go public with your commitment. Otherwise, it's going to be too easy to stay stuck in your past, right? You got to make a public confession of what you're going to do. I'm going to write my book and publish my book. I'm going to run my marathon. So all throughout the pandemic, as I'm teaching hundreds of people how to do this, because I had been selling the course for $1,200 pre-COVID. And I've been so blessed during COVID. I said, I want to give back to people. People are stuck at home. People are going to want to write their book. I'm going to help these people write their book. And so we helped hundreds of people write their book, helped a lot of those people publish their book during the pandemic. But it got down to this point was if people couldn't wrap their head around and come up with the title, the subtitle, and the back cover content within 1 hour, they're never going to do it. They are never going to do it because a goal session is a spiritual session. And when you write it down, you're not writing down a bunch of BS. You're really thinking about, this is a goal I've had since childhood. This has been in my mind since I read that book by the 11-year-old kid that I was going to write my own book. And I used to look up and tell my brother and my dog as those planes would fly that one day I'm going to be in those planes and flying all over the world, speaking to thousands of people. So that was one of my written goals. What are your written goals? One of my written goals was to have a house paid for by the time I'm 30. Run a marathon by the time I'm 40. I had these written goals, but it wasn't until I revisited them, and it wasn't until I made them public, right? And so what we do, and I've been teaching the last few years now, is if I got 20 minutes with a group on stage, my talk is called How to Write Your Book in 20 Minutes. And if I've got 60 minutes, I do a webinar every month called Write Your Book in 1 Hour. You can go to beyondwebinar.com. And you can see the recent replay of that, beyondwebinar.com. And I think I teach you in 45 minutes how to write a book in 1 hour, because it comes down to me hitting your hot buttons, me helping you make the decision, me helping you go public with it, and me helping you craft the title and the subtitle and the back cover content and the table of contents in 60 minutes, or in that case, 45 minutes. And then it's a matter of you just sticking with it, because I give you the course, and I'll give you the link, Jim, for the show notes. You can put it in the show notes. Write Your Book in 1 Hour. Watch the videos in the order that I set them up. My first segment is on CBS New York, where I talk about this. And then I break it down with how to get celebrity endorsements, how to come up with a subtitle, because the subtitle is not just for the reader, it's for search engines. Okay, what do you want the book to do for you? Is it to get you more customers? Is it to get you more stages? Maybe it's to get you more media interviews. Maybe you want to work from home. Maybe you're burned out with corporate and you want to transition into work from home. You need a book to launch that properly. So we decide, what is the book going to do for you? And then who is the reader of your book? And then I show you how to determine what your reader is reading right now and what podcast they're listening to. And I teach you this in 1 hour, and then I give you the video course so you can do it yourself. And then you get a free consult with me. You get my calendar link where you can jump on, and you get a full hour with me where you can ask me any ideas about your book idea, and I'll shoot straight with you. I'll be honest with you and give you the feedback on who's going to buy your book. And do you want to sell any copies, or do you want to really change people's lives?
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate your time. Yeah, all those links should be in the show description, including the videos. They're probably not in the correct order, but yeah, it's great to talk to you, man. I hope to pick you up. Maybe we can get in depth a little bit more the next time into the intricacies of what it is you're doing in Pakistan. Are you going to any other countries? Or how many countries are you in right now? I know Pakistan you mentioned, but where else?
I'm glad you asked that. So on the publishing side, I've got authors in 66 nations, and I have been to 8 nations this year so far. Israel, I've been to Malaysia. We've had 2 events in Singapore this spring, and then I've been in Thailand twice this spring already, and I'm going back in August. So I'm actually doing I was speaking in Bangkok at Rhema Bible College in February. And one of my friends from Bible college, he and his wife moved to Bangkok to start a church and a Bible school 38 years ago. And so I went and visited them, and they're just doing great. Their church is blowing up. They've started multiple churches in other countries, in Myanmar, in Cambodia, in Burma nearby, and Malaysia. and Bible schools and churches. And so they really need a lot of help. I'm going to be doing some volunteer work with them and supporting them. But I'm also going to be basing the publishing company there and opening an office there for the publishing company. And then also setting up a media company where we'll actually take content, gospel content that we can syndicate into closed countries that are not open to streaming the gospel. And we'll stream the gospel in the countries like North Korea and China. So
Awesome,
super
man.
excited about
Whose
that.
show are you doing next? Can you tell us?
What am I doing next?
Yeah, you're doing
the
somebody
show.
else's-
Oh, the C-Suite Network. Yeah.
Okay.
C-Suite Network. It's a. In fact, they asked me to consider opening Asia for them because they didn't know I was going to Asia until I spoke to them yesterday. The C-Suite Network. It's started by Jeffrey Hazlett. It's a pretty much global, but primarily most of their members are in the U.S. They support the the C-Suite founders, CEOs, CFOs, CMOs, COOs that are startup companies, company startups, and they have a lot of Fortune 500 companies and a lot of startups in there as well, technology in different industries. And so it's just really peer-to-peer networking and supporting one another in the startup, the funding, and the growth of the company.
Awesome, brother. Thank you for your time. I'll keep you on time so you can make sure you get the mic check on your other show. And yeah, let's do it again. And when we got a couple hours, I know that might be asking a lot for a guy like you, but
Tim, it's great to see you. And
Yeah.
I definitely want to come see you in the Dominican. I've been down there a couple times. I want to get back. And next time I come back, I would like to stay for like a week because it's always like I'm coming through on a cruise and you only get a few hours to even hit the beach.
You need a
and you
month.
don't get time to explore the country.
you need a month, and I got a place to put you up cheap. You don't have to worry about expensive hotels or all-inclusive or anything like that. But I'm on the North Shore, though, so don't fly to Punta Cana. Fly into Puerto Plata.
Okay, sounds good.
All right,
We'll
good
do
to
it.
see you.
Thanks
I
so
love
much.
you,
Good
my
to see
brother. God bless. We'll see you the next time you jump on Ziegler's Monday morning gig.
That's right. That's right. So I'll be jumping on there on you'll be on there Monday morning. I'll be on there Monday night from Bangkok. So
All right, brother. Good seeing you.
we'll see you.
All
Bye
right,
bye.
cheers. Michael Butler. If you need them, show description, links, show notes, and links in the show description. I don't know. Anyway, I'm getting out of here. Let's run through Michael's. Michael's links. Here we go. MichaelDButler.com. Let me see if I can get this better for you. What are you doing? Oh my gosh. I need a producer. So much easier when I just had to, run the mic and press the mute button. Oh, it's already there. Okay, you don't see my links tab. And okay, maybe I can show you this way. Here's the links tab. MichaelDButler.com, BeyondPublishing.com. There's a place you can sign up there. GiveButter.com/1040impact. And I'm going to put this link in the comments right now. This is the YouTube video. CBS interview. It's about 4 minutes long, not even. Love that hook. How to write a book in an hour. Obviously, you're not writing the book in an hour, but it's a play on words. I love it. It's genius. Beautiful. And here he is on Twitter. I'll put it in the comments right now. Mike at Michael Butler SR as in senior. And then this one over here. Over here. Control V over here. And that's how you do that. I've been working on this guy for a while. And we got more to come. No matter where you're watching it. Twatter, what up? D Live, what up? Kick, you're a new account. Alphabet gave me back my band Jim Fannin Show accounts on YouTube. So we're there. I'm not broadcasting on the Dominican channels today, although even though it's not Dominican specific material, I think it might be interesting for people to watch this show. So maybe I'll upload that. But you can catch this full interview if you didn't catch the live version on @JimFannon Live, because for some reason, Elon, I can't go live from OBS on @JimFannon on Twitter. I can go live on OBS from @JimFannon Live, but that's not where my people are, Elon. So I appreciate you giving me the @JimFannon thing back, but I can't go live there, my boy. Come on now. Finger it out. Thanks to my boy, Michael D. Butler, and I hope to have him on again soon. Peace, love, hug your neighbor, and I am out.